Welcome back to Delivering More, folks. I'm your host, Ben Alcar. We appreciate you consuming the content morning, afternoon, or evening. As always, if you could, hit that subscribe button down below. That's going to help us out more than you could ever know. I'm back to bring you another Meet the Team here, folks, and I have one of my favorites on the squad. I'm not going to lie to you. I have preferences here. I have Mitch Kime with me. Been with me in the trenches since October 2018. How we doing?
Amazing. Can't complain too much. How about you, Benny?
Stealing you from a little dispatch action. So
Get me out of there for a little bit.
Yeah, get in front of the camera. We'll usually touch. Getting a little cue there from Jim. Give him a scoot in. How we looking? We looking good?
Yeah, you're good now.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Pretty good, but
All right, and I can start here pretty quickly. Get a little lay of the land here. Just to get a little feeler on you and everything. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up?
Born in Akron. Grew up in Akron. Started in like the Stowe area, and then
I was just in Stowe last night.
No,
Actually.
okay.
Went to Handles.
Nice. Monroe Falls area, and then around 4 years old, moved to New Franklin. When my mom got together with my stepdad, moved over to New Franklin, and was in New Franklin for the rest of the show.
Okay, and you went to Manchester?
Correct.
Manchester. What's the mascot over at Manchester?
Panthers.
Red and black?
Yep.
Red and black. All right.
Yep.
What about I know we'll touch on baseball a little bit here moving forward, but any other sports growing up?
Growing up, played all of them: football, wrestling, basketball. Only one that I didn't dabble with was soccer.
Yeah.
Out of the major sports.
Did you soccer? Did you play in those like preschool leagues that everyone plays in growing up?
Nope.
Oh, really?
No. First time playing like any sort of like, and not even like organized, but first time playing soccer was over in a field in Europe when the grass was up to our knees, and it was actually like really very fun. It was fun.
Those guys were probably pretty good over there, though.
Yeah, it was a boy playing with men.
Yeah.
Definitely out of my element.
Safe to say. Okay, so we're Manchester. I assume like elementary, middle school, high school growing up. And then so around high school, usually we're getting our first job. Mm-hmm. What was your first job growing up?
Very first job was actually before high school.
Okay.
Don't want to get
anyone,
in trouble.
Let's be careful.
But no, I was from 14 to maybe 15 and a half, I was a bar back up at the old upper deck. Oh. That was job number one. And the whole family was there for a little bit. My brother was doing the same thing for a little bit. My mom was up there for a little bit. But yeah, that was the first official one.
Upper deck at 14.
Yeah. Couldn't have been legal.
Yeah,
No.
I mean, are we getting like slipped a little shift beer at the end of the shift? Or?
No, none of that, and it was always just like cash at the end of the day. I never had an actual paycheck.
Oh yeah, just all under the table.
Oh yeah, but yeah, it was just a bar back up there, so anything anybody needed was just my job.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, mostly just carrying cases of beer and buckets of ice.
All right, what about after that as we get to legal working age?
Yeah, okay, first
then?
legal one. So actually
W-2 employee.
My senior year, I took it was called CBI. I have no idea what CBI stands for, but
Never
I know
heard of
it got me out of school at like 10:40 in the morning, and then I was supposed to go to work, right?
Okay.
For the first half of the school year, I had a broken leg, so for the first half of the school year, I was going to school for 2 hours and going home. But my first job through that was working at, is it Pepe and Luigi's over in Barberton? A little pizza shop, just washing dishes over there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. It was a pretty decent one. That only lasted about 2 months, and then the owner was doing some weird stuff, grabbing my butt, and I decided I was done with that. So yeah. She would by the end of the shift she was always a few deep, a little loose, and I get a couple butt grabs and let my teacher know, and he goes, all right, well, you don't got to go back. And I was like, okay, all right, yeah. So I didn't even have to break it off. He made the call for me, everything. So
dishwasher is a tough job to start out. That was my first job ever over at Corky's Cafe here in a little plaza in the township, and the first like week or couple weeks, I feel like I was leaving like that shift. My shirt's drenched.
Oh yeah,
shoes are soaked. Like the area where I worked, it looked like someone like flooded the place. There's water everywhere.
Yeah.
But once you get that like lay the land down, you kind of get the figure out like a little system. I feel like it's not that bad.
What kind of food did they serve? You said where were you?
It was a cafe, so I mean we're talking like sandwiches, French fries, salads.
So nothing like too sharp in there for you to maybe hurt yourself on?
Oh no.
No, I remember it was either my first or second week there. They got the big like pizza cutters, you know,
Yeah.
like the big, like got the little bow in them. And I was washing one of those and just hand slipped off. I felt how deep it was, but like no pain. It was just like, so I even got a little it was like a little, I don't know, like A looking right there. It was deep in the thumb.
Just on the thumb though?
Oh yeah, but it went like way in there, like it was dripping blood everywhere. I was like trying to hold it like above my head with a paper towel, and then I got it dripping all the way down my arm and stuff. It was pretty ugly. That was the only time I've ever been like lightheaded from like loss of blood. I would assume that's what it was from.
Oh my gosh, that's
It was ugly.
Yeah, that's not great.
It was
that's
ugly.
not great. All right, let's get out of Pepe's. Let's get out of Pepe's and Luigi. So then, I don't necessarily. I know we've probably talked about this off camera a little bit, but then we graduated from Manchester. Did we go to the college route at all, or did we?
Yeah, so
we were
first,
trying to play baseball. Like
yeah, first semester, I got a scholarship to go down to South Carolina and play for a junior college down there.
Okay, right.
Florence Darlington Tech. That did not go as planned. Missed one practice and got a scholarship
that's what.
taken away and sat home.
Okay, I remember that now.
Yeah, so that was a good life lesson, I guess you could say, right? Don't be late. But yeah, so that didn't go as planned. Came back home, transferred to Tri-C. The idea was kind of get a semester in at Tri-C and then transfer over to Kent and play there just so I could still play D1 ball.
Yeah.
And again, that didn't go anywhere near as planned. And then, yeah, kind of over the next year, I got the opportunity to go play ball in Europe. Just kind of fell in my lap, and it was just like, well, school hasn't gone my way yet, so I'm going to do my own thing.
Yeah, so I want to talk about that a little bit. We're talking Croatia, right? That's
Yep.
the only place you played over in Europe. So how does that opportunity come about? The story's kind of unique, right? Didn't someone just like randomly reach out to you? Or?
Yeah, so I actually in the summer I was still playing in the Roy Hobbs baseball league, just the adult weekend warriors, like not wanting to give it up, playing ball together. So not crazy competitive, but still would surprise you. They have their World Series every year down in Florida, where teams from literally all over. We played teams from Puerto Rico, team from Mexico, team from Cuba, like all that stuff. So that down there is some actual competition. But we brought in a few people from Croatia because the manager of the team just so happens to be really good friends with the president of the club over there.
Okay.
So he brought his son, and the catcher for the A's had actually just got done playing over there. So he came as well, got to meet all them and whatnot. And then it was just kind of towards the end of that tournament, I was about to pitch that day, and it played pretty well up to that point. And I was kind of having a conversation with the president of the club beforehand, and then threw a really good game. And after that, I kind of just walked up to him. I was like, "Hey, what do I got to do to play for you?" And he goes, "Nothing. I'll message you in February." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So February comes around, and I got nothing from my guy Cruno. And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna give him his time." March comes around, still nothing. So like 2 weeks into March, I messaged him, just like, "Hey man, just seeing if this is still a thing, you know, like no pressure. Like I know there was no like contract,
right. It was just like a little conversation. He might have not even remembered that he said that. Yeah.
Passing by conversation, basically. And then about a week later, he hits me up and says, "Hey, our first game is like the second week in April, so I got a 3-week period to hop on a plane, fly over there, and start playing baseball." So that's exactly what happened. Over the next couple of weeks, he got me some plane tickets. I flew over there, and that's where it all started.
That's wild. And I know we'll have to cue in some pictures here. I know you've obviously showed the crew here a handful of times, like the waterfalls, like the
it's amazing.
The parks you're traveling around out there. All that stuff was so amazing. What other than the baseball, what was your favorite thing about being out there? Was it just like experiencing the culture, seeing a different like world, I guess you could call it?
Yeah,
How
it
did we
was
feel?
getting ingrained with the culture and the people's mindset out there was amazing to me. So the town that I was in Croatia in general, was they went through a civil war in the 90s when Serbia tried to take over all of, correct me if I'm wrong, Yugoslavia at the time. Serbia decided to...
Yeah.
Okay.
You could have said any country, and I would just nod in my head. Yep.
So
sounds right.
Yep. So Serbia decided they were going to try and take over everything for themselves, and they were, from my understanding, they were just kind of running through everybody until they got to Croatia, and specifically the town that I was staying in. The town center of the, and we'll pull up a picture of this. The town center there was actually like this big star. And like you can like pretty high walls, like this big. So they built a fortress in the town center, and I think that's kind of what what stopped Serbia, right? So Serbia and Croatia are still pretty like not that
Right.
tight, right? The whole time, every time we went to Serbia, we had police escorts everywhere, and that was kind of like cool, you know, like
Yeah, but it's
felt
also
cool,
like,
but also like very real.
what's going on
Yeah, like
here?
very real. But anyway, so they're fresh off of a civil war, and even just like walking around town, unless it's like a brand new building, like there's big bullet holes, like shrapnel holes, like stuff all over the buildings in town, that you can tell it's still very, very fresh. And just hearing some of the stories from my teammates and other people that you run into there, they have a different type of like camaraderie over there. You know, it's like we literally just made it through this.
Like we
together,
fought together, right?
Yeah. And I think that it mixed with just because it definitely not like third country by any mean or third world by any mean, but definitely lower income, definitely much less choices at like the grocery store and stuff like that. They live a much simpler life,
Right.
And they seem to be much happier than we are here, right? There's not a million things that they're thinking about. It's more so they're thinking about today and today only. They're
Right.
not worried about the bills that are coming up in months. They're not worried. They're worried about their friends and their family, and that's kind of it, you know. So that was really eye-opening and really cool to me to see and like be ingrained in. Just because me going over there, and I feel like it's like the typical American mindset, you know, like we have all this stuff at our hands, we have all the information at our hand. We tend to think of ourselves pretty highly, right? And then going over there with like a little chip on my shoulder, and it was like, you guys have it way more figured out than we do on a personal level, right? Like on like a mindset level. So that was like the coolest thing to me to see.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was very eye-opening.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I guess coming out of that, then, did we just spend the one season or 1 year over there?
So
How long
two
was our
summers,
tenure?
2 summers total. I want to say I was there for 20 months in total. But
That was
yeah, I
all
would come-
continuous? Like you never came
No,
back?
came home for I think a 2-month stretch, and that's actually when that first 2-month stretch is when I met Holly when I first came home. So then had to go back over for another 10 months after just meeting her, and somehow that worked out throughout that whole thing. But yeah, there was a little like summer break, if you will, during the winter actually, off season. But yeah, then went right back over and did the whole thing again.
Okay. And then, so that ends, and then we're back in the States.
Yep.
And are we like deciding to then hang it up baseball wise? How do we call that, a career, and like, how's that all unfold?
Yeah, so there was a handful of things that went into that. I had another team to line up and go play for, and not like saying anything about the competition in like Croatia or just like Eastern Europe, but I had an opportunity to go play in the Netherlands, and like the Netherlands is like legit pro baseball. Like it's really good baseball. So I was very juiced about that. Everything was kind of like set in stone, just waiting on like the finalization of everything. And then from my understanding, the team got a completely new manager, and I just got lost in the transition. So I never heard anything from anybody. So I knew it was like time to come back home at that point. I was at a weird spot, like wanting to go back and play in Karlovac in Croatia, just because I had this other opportunity in front of me. And then the rug kind of got pulled out from me under there, and I was kind of bitter, and then just going back and forth between, it's kind of time to start real life, right? Like it's kind of like you got to start making money, you got to start a life for your own. So yeah, I would say between the bitterness and then just the being semi-realistic about it's time to grow up, kind of led me back home and staying here.
Okay. And then about like what year are we when all this is happening? Like what's the timeline?
So started here in
Had to be
2018. I would say 2016.
2016,
right in there
that's
somewhere.
what I was gonna guess. Okay,
Yeah.
All right. And then so from there, I guess we can kind of just delve into our timeline with DeliverThat, right? Because I mean, maybe we're
pretty close
skipping
to
a
it.
couple years. I know you were working at the chair rental,
working
tent
at
company
Sully's
for a little
about
bit,
2 years before this,
pounding those stakes in the ground and
Oh,
things
yeah.
like that. And then I do want to. We'll circle back to kind of get into our timeline with DeliverThat. You played baseball growing up. Aaron did, John did, I did as well.
Mm-hmm.
We had never met until our time with DeliverThat, but you had previous relationship with those two, I believe. So how did you meet them growing up? What was that all like?
So met Aaron first by about 2 years, I think. So met Aaron when I was 16. I actually have no idea how the opportunity came up to go play with the Yankees, but Aaron was playing for the Ohio Yankees at the time, and I was not. I was on another team. I think they needed a pitcher for the tournament that they were currently in. But like I said, I forget how it came up. But anyways, I show up to the tournament, and I kind of showed up and really showed up, like played very, very well the whole time. So it was kind of just like an easy to start a relationship with everybody, right? Like I just came out and added value to their
they weren't
team,
like,
to
oh,
their
who's
life.
this random kid who
Yeah,
just sucks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of how it all started. Met Aaron through there. Met our buddy Coop through the Yankees as well.
Hate him.
But yeah, so that was the first introduction to Aaron. We played the rest of that summer and the following summer together before we all went off to college.
Hell yeah. Okay. And then, so now we're kind of establishing how we then get in connection with DeliverThat, right? So that
getting there, yeah.
I
definitely
think,
getting there.
So we'll say 2017-ish. Well, actually, it's been all through 2018, right? I think you're working for that tent company, Sully's, kind of slaving away. It felt like I think you were kind of hitting a wall.
Yep.
Weren't too happy with the opportunity. Were you supposed to like get a raise or something, or you were?
I had like just became a driver for them, so it just went from just being like a passenger, just kind of, again, whatever this guy needs, I'm doing whatever the heck he tells me to do.
Yeah.
To being the guy who gets to tell people what to do.
Right.
But at the same time, knew there wasn't anywhere to go.
Yeah. No
but
upward.
From there, that was the top, right?
Okay.
Like that was it.
Okay. And then we'll skip right along, I guess. Then so I think I get hired in October. We'll call it October 20th, and then you come on in October 28th, we'll call it. Like
I
literally
think it was right after Halloween.
Yeah, the very next week maybe. So was that just like a simple outreach? You reached out to Aaron and John, they reached out to you. Do you remember how that all happened?
Yeah, so I was at work at Sully's and just got a random message from John, just kind of checking in, just like, hey buddy, what's going on? What are you up to? How's life? All that kind of stuff. And that just went organically, and he's like, well, hey, this is what we're doing if you want to come check it out and see what's going on. And just having the previous work experience with John and Aaron, just full belief in them, know that it can't be working with them twice, had two great experiences as far as like just having fun, like having a good time. And this one sounded a little bit more serious, and I knew that it was their own, like it was their heart and soul going into it, not just money backing it up, right? Like all the other jobs, we're just trying to make as much money as we can. This one was like, hey, this is our baby.
Yeah, they're
right?
building
we built
it.
This.
Yeah.
He was kind of like, hey, you want to come check it out? We got this little spot over by the Giesen house. I had no idea what the Giesen house was at the time. And then, the very next day, I told my boss, like, hey, I'm not going to be in tomorrow. Very next day, I show up, and it was me and you dispatching for 8 hours straight, immediately right into it. They kind of greased me into that one. But yeah, even after that very first day, it felt completely different. Never told myself that I could work in an office. The whole family basically has all labor jobs, coming off of a labor job, kind of going down that same path. And then obviously walk in, and I'm like, oh, this ain't an office job.
You walked in. So at the time, I'm fairly certain this is the black mold office.
No, not yet. That was maybe a month later, because I was only in that office for a couple weeks.
What do you mean mushroom?
We have mushroom growing out of the floor.
Oh yeah, like behind the sink, there's like standing water and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember that. Okay, but I remember because that when you first walk in, we were in that room right to the left, and all we had was like a folding table, and it was just me and you on laptops. Like just hacking away basically. I mean, we're probably doing 100, 200 deliveries at the time. Like,
I wanna
5 cities. Like it was
because I want to say they were like absolutely juiced because we did like 500 deliveries that week or something like that. Like they were like through the roof about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're probably in like Detroit, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, like NEO, like Columbus, so bare bones at the time. I'll never forget that. But I mean, just thinking about those days. So then So then we're kind of battling in the dispatch department together for the next couple years there, I think.
Yep.
I mean, we went through a handful of people who have came and went. We've had people who have came and stuck around. Obviously, we brought on, Leighton and Nate both started as interns.
Yep.
They're now flourishing within the department. We've had, so many. Tristan obviously was with us for a little while. Now he's a software engineer, if that's what his title is. I don't even know what you could call it. But is there anything from those first couple years? I mean, even like before we got into this office that like you think about sometimes and you're just like,
all
what
the
was
time.
going on?
I was so much tougher then than I am now. I feel like I'm just a lot softer now as far as I mean, like you said it best, like we were in the trenches, dude. Like we were working crazy hours, crazy pace. Probably me and you doing the jobs of what 4 or 5 people could, should be doing, I should say. So yeah, that's the biggest thing that I take away just from that first like sprint that we had together, where it was just really going crazy. Yeah, that's kind of the easiest part to look back on. It's just how hard we were actually grinding.
Yeah. I mean, I know we talk about this all the time. It gets brought up all the time too. I like throwing these guys' faces out here and they like complain. They're like, "Oh, it's been such a long day." I'm like, "Yeah, why don't you take an hour break and then come back and work those 8 hours again? Why don't you try that for me one time and then you tell me how hard this job is right now?"
Yeah. You work a 16-hour shift for 4 days a week and let me know.
Yeah, those were wild west, wild times, crazy times. And I mean, I guess, we can kind of just ask more kind of about what you're doing nowadays. I know obviously you're the head of the dispatch department now. What is your title currently?
Manager of delivery support, I believe.
Okay.
Something along those lines.
Okay. So
running our dispatch.
Right. Yeah, you just basically oversee everything over there. And I think the first kind of question I would ask for you, and we kind of touched on it a little bit, is like how in the thick of things we were, but the technology that we're working with now, right? Back then all we had was back then it was Bring, possibly on Fleet and then Bring, and we're basically just staring at lists of names and times. We don't have a map. Well, we had map, but it never loaded, didn't work or anything. Like you scroll to the bottom, it never loaded, never knew where anyone was. So you're smiling and dialing all the time, trying to figure stuff out. So then we moved to Vromo, get a new logistics platform. That kind of changed the game a little bit.
Yep.
Now we're utilizing Zendesk. We're using routing software. You know way more than I do at this point. So just tech-wise, what does it look like then versus now?
It's so night and day. It's kind of ridiculous, honestly. It's even it's hard to put into words because even just looking back 365 days then versus now is you could talk forever. It's completely different. So looking back 4 or 5 years, it's a completely different operation. Because like you said, we were manually doing everything then. Like we were checking on every single driver.
Using GroupMe to talk to drivers.
Yeah,
not even
exactly.
Like texting
Group
them.
texting a mass amount of drivers.
Hey, we have 3 deliveries and you're sending it to 50 people in the group, just praying someone responds at 8 in the morning.
Yeah.
Like,
so we'll kind of we'll throw it into those buckets then, as far as monitoring the deliveries, routing the deliveries, and just communication with our drivers, right? So as far as monitoring the deliveries, we used to, like you said, like check on every single driver for every single delivery, and now we more so have an alert system set up to like let us know what we need to check, right? So we don't need to go down the list. It's just telling us like, hey, there might be something you might need to look at here.
Yeah.
And as far as the routing piece goes, the nightmare that was. It was the same idea as monitoring. You're looking at just every single driver by driver, checking their routes the whole time. Now we have a whole list of routing guidelines out for our drivers, utilizing offering policies in Vromo to kind of put radiuses on what drivers can accept, right? It doesn't make any sense for a driver to be able to have a job in Cleveland and in Akron at the same exact time, right? So we're trying to combat that and just make it easier for our drivers to not have deliveries that are combating with each other. We never want them to think, hey, I'm going to make all this money tomorrow, and then the morning of someone go, you're not making as much as you thought today because we have to release X, Y, and Z, right? And trying to make it easier on the team internally for the same kind of idea, right? It's very, very hard to come in and look at a driver that has 10 deliveries scheduled for the day and decipher what they want to take, what's most lucrative for them, what makes sense for us, right? It's kind of a mixture of all 3 things. So we're going to have these policies that take about half of the workout, we'll say, right? They're not perfect, but they chop down on a ton of it. And as far as communication with our drivers, and because I would say using the group messages like that, like we were what we called shopping deliveries, right? Like, hey, there's unassigned deliveries, who wants them? Now we have so many drivers, so many more than then, and coupled with the offering policies that I was just talking about. Realistically, the only deliveries that we're shopping anymore is if a driver does run into like an unfortunate situation, they have to release a delivery. Exactly, they have to release the delivery 30 minutes to pick up, right? That's really the only time we're going out manually shopping anything anymore. So it's really cool to see that. I mean, that's a huge shift on every single front there. It's a huge shift. Yeah.
What about, man, I'm trying to think like what else we could talk about as far as dispatching. I guess for you, maybe not you personally, because I don't think you're necessarily like deep in the weeds like we kind of were
Yeah,
previously.
not too
You're
much
kind
anymore.
of like oversight nowadays, I feel like. But for you, if you could like pinpoint maybe one or two things that you think would make dispatchers' lives a little easier as far as concerning the drivers, like are there things drivers do that could easily, be relieved and make things easier for you guys? Or are there things like your guys' expectations that maybe drivers just don't understand on our end? There's like a miscommunication point or something we could touch on there that would make things like a little more clear to everyone?
Yeah, I would say the biggest thing from a dispatch standpoint, right, as far as just like delivery execution, would be the drivers just being able to just to use their app correctly, right? Like we ask our drivers to be available on the app. If you're not available on the app, we can't see your location. And to start the jobs when you're heading there, right? We don't want to, and that's basically just because, without getting too far under the hood, our alert system is kind of set up again, or to play to what the drivers are actually doing. So if the drivers aren't using the app correctly, we're not getting alerts correctly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's the biggest thing, and that's the easiest way to execute your deliveries the best and to keep us off your back. Right? Because if you're not using the app correctly, you're going to get a call from Dave Potter telling you to start your delivery for you, ask him where you're at, all that kind of stuff. So the best way to avoid that is to just use the app how explained in your onboarding process.
Hell yeah. Yeah, that's pretty straightforward. What about, is there anything on the horizon, I guess, like something we could talk about, like that could be coming within like the end of the year, or things you are hoping to have next year throughout the course of 2024 that will be maybe a shift in how we operate again?
Yeah, as far as in-house, and again, don't want to get too far into it. Just don't want any sensitive info getting out, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
But as far as in-house, we are looking into building kind of a routing software of our own. We spend a lot, even as far as things have come tech-wise, we still spend a lot of man-hours manually routing these deliveries, and we're looking to build a software that will help us immensely with that part of things. But on the driver side of things, kind of go hand in hand actually, is we're just keep on working to perfect the offering policies, right?
Yeah,
we want to find a way for drivers to make the most money they can, and they can only accept deliveries that work with what they have. Right, that's kind of the end-all, be-all goal. Is that routing piece is probably our biggest thorn in our side right now.
Nice, yeah. Well, yeah, that's man. I don't have much about as far as DeliverThat goes, man. I think all I really want to like say is like it's been 5 years, and it's like, man, like what is like I can't. Sometimes I'm just like walk in this office and I'm like what it like is this real?
Yeah.
Like, well, like how did we go from like we talk like black mold office, Jim stealing plants, and we're getting chewed out because he stole plants. We're getting kicked out. We painted a whole office bright blue and stayed in it for a month, and now we're filling up 2 sides of an office. We got 60+ employees. Like it's wild.
Yeah, it's been really crazy to see it evolve, and to just see the roles evolve into different things. Obviously, you're all the way out of operations and doing your own thing over here now. And even myself a bit, because like you said, not too much in the weeds anymore. And it's kind of more so, and it's funny just because Aaron's been preaching it to me for 2 or 3 years that it'll just be managing the people. It'll be managing the tech and managing the people, like kind of just like keep your head down, grunt through it, see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we're getting really close to there, right? I'm kind of, like you said, out of the weeds a little bit now. I have anywhere from 7 to 12 one-on-ones with our people every week, making sure basically that they're happy, right? Obviously, with a bunch of tech changes, there's a ton of coaching to be done. But at the end of the day, all the people need in here is a little TLC, right? I try to make that balance of having a relationship with the people in here, and then obviously still having that line in the sand of when we do things wrong, we need to correct them. But no, I just want to make sure that the people in here know that we care about them. And I think that's why we've kept a core group of our people for so long, and why we don't see the turnover that a lot of, I don't want to label us as a call center, right? But at the end of the day, we fall into that bucket. And I feel like the typical call center has a ridiculous turnover rate. And we've had some of these people out here answering the phones with us for almost as long as we've been here, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just showing, and it's the same idea with the driver. Show them a little bit of love, let them know you care, and everything else is what it is.
Yeah,
you know?
facts. Yeah, I couldn't agree with that more. Mitch, I appreciate your time. I want to close it out here with a little this or that.
Okay.
Should be very straightforward. I'm gonna give you
Okay.
2 options. Just pick one or the other. Maybe run down a reason why, and we will expand upon it if need be. Okay?
All right, let's do it.
We're gonna start out this or that: early mornings or late nights.
I've been battling this lately. I feel like up until the last 6 months to a year, it was early mornings, not even a question. Could easily be the 4 a.m. guy, very productive from 4 to noon, and then I can kind of tinker off from there. For whatever reason, it's completely flip-flop on me. Now that alarm rings, I might let it go another 30. I might let it go another 30, and then go from there. But still not like an egregiously late-night person, I should say. But just as much as I've been hating mornings, I'm going to go with late night.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Easy enough. Easy enough. We'll keep it moving. Oh man, we didn't even talk about Phoenix, and I just totally.
Yeah, we touched on it in the first one.
Yeah.
Should be
Yeah.
okay.
True. Yeah. True. Yeah.
That was a big part of the first
Yeah.
one.
Watch Mitch meet the team part 1 if you want to hear about his time out in Phoenix. Didn't touch on Holly at all. So much we missed. How long are we right now?
33.
Yeah, 33. Yeah, so we could go for an hour and a half. So easy.
I'll be
the
back.
the only reason I thought of that is because our next one is: would you rather be hot or cold?
Oh, hot, not even a question.
Hot.
Yep.
You like that dry heat out there in Phoenix? Was it
It's
nice?
amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing. Went out there and just immediately like all allergies gone, asthma gone, and I was afraid because in Ohio if the sun is out, it could be 55 degrees. If the sun's out, I'm sweating, so I was scared to go out there, and then went out there and it was kind of just what everyone said, like, hey, the dry heat's different, and it sure is.
Hell yeah.
Sure is.
All right, this one I think should be fairly easy for you. How do we feel about dogs or cats?
Oh, dogs.
Nice.
Yeah,
We got-
allergic to cats, so that's kind of like an easy one there. But at the same time, like,
You got a couple roaming around at that household, right?
Oh yeah. We got old girl Ida. She's pushing 13 or 14, and then Luna, which I believe might have just turned 3 here recently. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Little
little
young
pups at the
pup,
house.
young
Oh,
pup
yeah.
toting around the old
Oh,
gal. All right. What about I like this one for you. I like this next one a lot for you. How do we feel about books or movies?
Gotta be books. Gotta be books. Not a big movie guy. I think it's more of an attention span thing. But yeah, they gotta be books.
And are you still on the audiobook kick, or are we
For the
reading?
most part, I've recently, and I think it's just because the last book that I was reading, I was struggling to really take it in. So I've recently switched to hard copy and Audible at the same time.
Yeah,
Kind of
following
following
along.
along, making sure I'm not missing, making sure I'm like locked in and focused
Yeah.
on it. Because with the right content, I can just lock in and forget everything else and just really pay attention. But if I'm struggling a little bit, need a little help.
Yeah, need a little extra juice.
All
All
right.
right. We'll close it out here. I'm not sure about this one at all, so we'll see what we got. How do you feel about cooking at home or going out to eat?
Ooh, cooking at home for sure. It's over the last you could call it like couple years, but really over the last 6-ish months. One of my new favorite things is just like cooking with Holly at the house. I don't know why. It's one of those, because obviously we work together, right? But we're not in the same department. But we're still like, we see each other all day long. But it's still nice to get that quality time, like just us together with like one task in mind.
Yeah.
She is a lot more creative than I am in the kitchen. I am where's the instructions, and I'm gonna follow them exactly
Yeah.
to a T because I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
doing. But no, she'll be over here freestyling, like whipping up her own sauces, like homemade sauces and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I really enjoy that.
What do you guys have a go-to dish that you prepare often?
Ooh, she makes this, which I guess I'm just like the kitchen helper there. But she makes like this, like Asian noodles and chicken or whatever meat we're having with it. And that's like one of her concoctions. She'll whip up this Asian sauce with like 10 different things in it. It's amazing. The only thing we struggle with is she likes to get these, what kind of noodles are they? I forget no, they're not ramen. They're like, what was it?
Lo mein.
No, they're like, they look
They're
like
thicker?
fettuccine, but they're not. They're like see-through, but
I know. They're like. I know what they're called. Go on.
but we struggle with those of keeping those into singular noodles. You'll get a lot that are like
Clumped
6
up?
or 7 of them,
Yeah.
just like really clumped up together. That's the only part that we've been struggling with, but that's kind of that's our go-to. I like that one a lot.
All right.
What are they?
Glass noodles?
I don't think so.
There's
I
no
don't think
way.
so. The last time we the last time we got them, we actually went to a little like Asian Indian market and got like some like real ones.
Nice.
Like no English on the package or anything. So obviously I didn't cook those because I can't read the instructions.
All right. Well, that's all I got. That's all I got for you, Mitch, man. I appreciate you coming over here, knocking this out with me today.
Yeah.
Obviously, like you said earlier, we battled through it, got through the trenches over a couple course of the years. I feel like we built a great friendship while y'all been here.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for, being able to meet you, spend time with you throughout those years. And obviously we get to chat every day. I like to come over there and kind of take my mind off some video creation sometimes and kind of BS with you guys. So that's always a bright part of my day. So I appreciate you guys. Appreciate everything you're doing here, man. And thank you so much.
Of course.
All right.
Thanks for having me on, brother.
Yep.
What are you shooting tonight? What's the goal?
Under 90 is always the goal.
Well, we're only playing 9.
Yeah. We're only playing 9.
45.
Yeah, under 45. I would say. I mean, we're playing shady though, so it's like I'd say like under 47.
Under 47?
Under 47.
All right. Comment below. What do you think Benny's going to shoot, huh?
Yeah, let the people know because it might get ugly out there. All right. Thank you, folks.